All right, hey there, Sam back with you. What is it? Wednesday, November 7th, and back here by request from our members. Look at Ethereum to the dollar. I've got up here. This is a 3-hour on Coinbase or GDAX. Now you can see, right, much like if you watched the prior video on EOS, not terribly surprising that we've got a piranha here as well. So same pattern, same idea, and then if we open it up a little bit. It's just as we did with EOS here. If we look at the wolf range, we just grab that. You can see we're splitting it right in the middle. All right, so it becomes a question of where are we likely to break, right? So this, we certainly, it looks like we have the potential to break here, but we can't ignore the fact that we're going to have targets down below. So I think, you can call it a triangle. So if it's a triangle, and we're thinking in an Elliott count, the odds would suggest that this larger ABC here is corrective, and perhaps the break is to the short side. I would wait. I would want to see that happen, right? Before we determine, let's see what happens here. If we're going to come down and head towards some of the structural support down here, I think there's a reasonable case that if we break this pivot here, that we might have something bullish that we could lean into. So I'm going to go from the 3-hour. Let's go all the way to the 30-minute, see if we can make heads or tails of where we are here. So this now looks a little bit, it's a little cleaner. Well, still not without a few problems here. It's a little cleaner on the potential Elliott count. This clearly looks impulsive. We get a little ABC, and then we can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coming out of that. But it requires you to accommodate this ugly looking 1, 2. We can. These look fairly reasonable here. But how you getting a 1 out of that? It's, you kind of have to back into it. So if this is the 2, let's use, we can do that. If this is the 2 and this is the 3, all right, so let's get our template over here to traditional. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. So there's our golden zone. Here's just a couple of ticks from the 618. Here's our target. Right, to the tick. So we know what happened there. So the fact that I've got a completed motive wave has me thinking, well, if that's a significant pivot, if this is the low, right, we got to kind of look at both of them. But if I look here, and this is complete up here, well, where's the next opportunity? We've got a completed motive wave. All right, no threat to the 1, even though that's deep for a 4. So here's the next buying opportunity here. Now, we got to get down there with the right format, the right pattern. So it looks like we've got a little ABC that's just getting started. So that likely too soon to be finished as a correction, but something like that. And then you look at it and you go, how does that look, right? So it would be more ideal if this is going to continue. So if we had some sort of a diagonal going in here. So if I open that up even further, let me look ABC, it's, if we're looking for this to get down to the 50, I'd rather see this play as a deep 2, and then we're in the process of putting in the 3, the 4, and the 5. So I would be anticipating a diagonal. It doesn't have to be, but if we're in an A wave, that's a possibility. So I'd be looking. Well, if we just take, let me do it this way. If we just take the length of the 1. And if we've got this identified correctly as the 2, well, first thing we got to do is let's get to a 3. Here's the 3 down here. That's the larger 50 in the middle of the piranha that we looked at. So if we're going to come down that way and finish, if this is going to go 2, 3, 4, 5, well, here's the larger 50. Well, that's too much. So you kind of look at it and you go, all right, well, where if this, I'm trying to buy it down here. How am I going to get there? Well, it's not a great looking A. It's 1, 2. It's not great, right? So again, it's trying to get the structure in place to accommodate what we're seeing. So even if I go down to a 15-minute ABC, maybe let's see, maybe you can get this if this is 1, 2, and we're gonna go ABC, or 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. Let's pull this off. So maybe we can make this case that, I don't love that as the A, but maybe we can get an ABC like that. Let's get this up so we can, maybe I don't love it. Right, so it's that's not out of bounds for a B, but now 1, 2. This has to keep going. So this little trend here we have established of lower, low, higher. Well, pardon me. Here's our high. Here's a low. Here's a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Right. So we're just continuing to trend down this direction. So if I just throw a channel on this, it starts to look like I've got something here shaping up. Maybe. So if this is 1, 2, we know. Let's pull this off here. So if we start projecting, if that's my 1 and this is my 2, well, I've got a contender down here. This could be 3, right? That's a probability zone for our 3, 4. And now we're down here. So now we're coming up a little short. All right. So you see, it's a when you're building that roadmap, you want to start to work in these probability zones. Well, if this is A, B, and we've just done 1, 2. So then it would imply that perhaps this is 1, 2 of the third. So let's see if we can make that work. So if we're going to come lower on the 3, 4, and 5 there, so let me get that in a different color, and we'll go down a degree. See if we can get that to work. Does that fit? Well, if this is 1, 2, we do the exact same process. Let's pull that off and let's try it again on a lower degree. So if this is 1 and this is 2, well, then that would put my potential 3 down here. All right, so let's pull all these placeholders down here. That's why it's a good idea to change the color and keep the degree separate, so then you don't get lost into where you are based on those colors. So here's what we're trying to get to, at least the 50. So if I'm going to go like this, if this is going to be the 1, 2, and we're going to go 3, 4, 5. Well, that's got to be, so this has to be the third. All right, so this would be, pardon me, so we'd have 3, 4, 5 there of our third of the larger degree. All right, if that finishes there, then we're looking for an ABC up the other direction. So, we'd be standard. We'd be looking for something around the 38, and then we're going to come down for the 5. So that fits a little bit better, which would suggest lower prices here. So this would be 4. Now let's just for the sake of doing it, let's just look at that. Well, pardon me. Here's what I want. This is the larger 2. If this completes the 3 here, and we come into this zone here as a little ABC, right? We head down. Well, here's an algo target. There's my 5. There's a candidate. So now I'm in the range I was trying to get into. So now I can figure out how we might get there. Now, is it going to follow that exactly? Well, probably not, but at least we can get something laid out. So if we start moving this direction, we know where we are. So if I pull this back, let's go to the 30 and take a look at that. All right, so here's where we're trying to get it. We pull this one off. Again, it's always a matter of trying to say, okay, well, if that's complete, and my next move here is, and my probability zone is down here between the 50 and the 618. Based on what I've got so far to work with, how am I going to get there? Right, staying consistent with the pattern here. Well, it's a little problematic here. You can just look at this let me pull this off here so you can see it a little bit. The symmetry is not ideal relative to the. So let me pull this off relative to the AB. All right, so we're looking for a rather large C if we're coming down here. So again, it kind of takes me back to maybe this is 1, 2, and we're just still getting started in the A wave. I guess the bottom line is there's not enough here to build a trade on until we see we need another pivot. So there's a start of something, but it's a little bit of guesswork here, just trying to use probability ranges to see, well, how am I getting down here based on what I've got? So maybe this has to resolve lower, the B has to come down. Either way, there's not enough here yet. There's a start on something, but not enough yet to where I can really put on a high probability trade with decent risk reward based on what I'm seeing so far. And then let's keep some perspective about where we are. Right, we're still in this in the piranha, triangle, however you call it. I call them piranhas. If you're still in a piranha and you've got the potential for this to keep going lower, because if we pull way out back to where we started, you know you've got an algo target down there. So we can let's do it this way. So if I do it like this, all right. So I'll take this wolf off. Oops, I want to get that off. And let's get this 50 back on here. Well, I've shown this before. Let's get our measured move on here. Yeah, we've got it. Okay, so if I use this and I go from this pivot to this swing, all right, right to the golden zone. So we can't ignore the idea that this has got this target down here. That's very real, right? There's software that's sold there and is going to stay short until we get here, unless it gets stopped out. It only gets stopped out if they break that 65. So if we're going to come down here, again, you can't turn a blind eye and just take that off your chart and go, oh, I don't have to worry about that anymore. All right, we've got an impulse. We're off to the races. We're coming out of this piranha. We're going to be bullish, and off we go. Somewhere you've got to watch for this, because if this is going to start to break and we break this the lower jaw of the piranha, we're coming down, and that's a very real target that we're going to have to deal with. So this count is a start on something, but it's not enough to really build a trade plan off of. So if you're looking at this going, well, that's a good sign that I've got a completed 5-wave structure, albeit with a bit of a squirrely 1 and a shallow 2. So already you're kind of making excuses for an ugly count. You know, this certainly could be some sort of a corrective, or could just be an A wave. It could be a lot of things. We don't have a lot to work with yet, other than I've got something here. Something has completed. Right, so we know this is the zone that we're looking for. So if we're going to come down here and we find some support, we come back into the range of the piranha, we come down here into this range. Again, we can just work from either one of these pivots. Let's use the other one. It's relatively close, obviously. So if we're going to come down here, if this much like EOS was, if we've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which probably fits better for that 1, using this as the 1, 2, this is the 3, it is long enough. 4 and 5 for the 1, we've got to allow for the shallow 2. The good-looking 3, it plays, and this was very technical up here. So we've got something that's completed here. Is it enough to get us out of this deep hole? Well, we really, until we get down here and we get a test. So we come down here, we test this zone. It's just not enough for me. So I wouldn't be shorting it here based off of this, although for the aggressive trader that just is itching for a trade, the correction is likely not complete. Just with this little pivot down here, likely not complete. But I'm not a big fan of shorting crypto, so if you're comfortable with it, have at it. That's likely you've got a reasonable target down here at 207. What are we sitting at now? 216. Right, lever it up, take it, put a stop on it. If you're comfortable with that, there is definitely a trade there. It's just not a trade I would take. So if I go swing low, this is what I'm watching. I want to see something to confirm that I like fairly solid that we've got an impulse coming off of that low. But do I get a test here to give me enough confidence to think, okay, I'm in the zone. I like what I see. I'm able to figure out the correction. I can get the pattern to work. Now, do I have this kind of target? Well, of course, we could, if we get something like that, and we got a pivot here, and we're going to come down here into this range, we've got a potential corner pocket setting up for us. So that's all there, but that's the trade that I would wait for rather than try and catch the short down to that. Just don't think that the risk reward is worthwhile. But down here, if we can get positioned for what would be the potential 1-2 coming out of the piranha, if we can get 1-2 and go 3, 4, 5, let's get that into something substantial. We get something like that. Well, here's the trade you're always trying to get. So maybe this is just our one wave. We retrace, test the range, hold, and start to move higher. Well, at very least, we'd have an algo target. Now, it's not enough for a 3, but if we put it up where it potentially could be going, right, up here at a 3, well, look where that 3 is. Here's the 65 of that one that we drew. So if I see if I can do it on this scale. All right, so here's the 65 that we tagged right here. So if we're going to go 1, 2, 3, here's our 1618 right here. Right, can I get it? All right. So if you can see that red line, so if we go down here, we get the corner pocket. Look where that puts us. If we're going to get this, right, median line, we're going to pay attention to it. But likely what you get is if we're going to hit median line and we come out of that, that likely just sets up the 1, 2 of the 3, 4, and 5 that would get us there. Right, so it's always the same idea. Can we build a roadmap that makes sense based on where we are? Do I have enough here so I can lay that out confidently and say, okay, we come to the 50. I want to know about it. Right? I want to be alerted to that. If I like what I see in terms of how we resolve what we were just kind of struggling to get a handle on, this part of it, yeah, I would take a long, hard look at that. You know, I want to see a few other things there, but there's certainly the potential there, but not until we get there, because this is likely complete. So let's get the retracement in. Here's the probable zone. Here's the possible zone. Yeah, all right, I understand. Right? We could just do that. We could. I'll let that one go. I'll wait for something that's more probable to give me a range where I can define and that fits with my roadmap. All right, guys, so with that, I will wrap here. Just a few other little housekeeping. We're doing this 7-day trial. We've been testing that. We think we've got it sorted out here. So you will have access to the members Discord. We won't have full access to all of the training content. We just can't do it that way based on prior history of people coming in and just grabbing a bunch of stuff and then canceling. But we think we've got it worked out here. So that will be an option that we'll likely announce it both here as well as on Twitter. So keep your eye out for that. And in the meantime here, let's let these develop a bit more and maybe back for an update on this on Friday. All right, guys, that's it for today.